So Midas is this super rich, greedy, kind of gluttonous king that rules over Phrygia, and he has this big old palace. He's like, whoa, look at this golden palace, it's so cool. And yeah, he's just a very rich guy. And one day, his soldiers come and they find this weird drunk guy hanging out on Midas's palace, and they capture him and they bring him to Midas. But the Midas is like, "Yo, you big fat fools! That's not some drunk guy. That's Silenus. That's the satyr who is the who's one of the companions of Dionysus, and he's very important. We should not be doing this to the godly types." So so Midas makes the guards let go of Silenus, and Silenus is like, "Oh, hey, thanks, guy." And Midas is like, "Yeah, no problem." And they hang out for a few days. It's just a great time. It's a great, grand old time. And eventually, Midas returns Silenus to Dionysus. But Dionysus is like, "Oh, well, since you were so gracious and gave my friend such hospitality, I will grant you one wish, like the genie from Aladdin." And Midas is like, "Oh, well, I do like genies, but I also really like gold. And you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna ask for a touch of gold, so that anything I touch, anything at all, will become gold when I touch it." And Dionysus is like, "Yeah, that's a good idea." So he gives Midas the golden touch, and now anything Midas touches, it turns into gold. So he starts by turning twigs into gold, and he turns some stones into gold, and he turns some apples into gold, turns some reeds into gold, and he's like, "This is great." And he gets back home, and he turns a whole bunch of stuff into gold. But then he gets hungry. He's been turning stuff into gold all day. So Midas picks up some gold, some good old food, and he tries to put it in his mouth. But the second it touches his lips, it turns into gold. He can't eat it. He's like, "Shoot!" And he tries this for a while, but everything's just gold. And he's like, "Well, I'm gonna starve to death like this." So he marches back to Dionysus, and he's like, "Hey, I mean, thanks for the gift and all, but I don't want to starve." And Dionysus is like, "Okay, but all you gotta do to fix that problem is go wash your hands in the river Pactolus." And the river Pactolus is in Lydia, ancient Lydia, which is some really cool desert place. And Midas is like, "Yeah, I'm gonna wash my hands so I can eat." And he washes his hands, and that's actually how the river Pactolus got so golden with all those deserts and all those sands, because he washed his hands in the river. So now the river's sands are gold. Isn't that cool? There's another story with Midas too. This is less known than the Golden Touch one. Everyone knows the Golden Touch one. I think VeggieTales did a show about it. But King Midas, uh, this is actually kind of funny too. It's right over the River Pactolus. It's Mount Tmolus is this big mountain, and on this mountain there's a contest going on between Apollo, who's that cool Olympian with the lyre, and Pan, who who is another god who's a satyr and is really good at playing some reed, really good at playing instruments. And they're doing like a Devil Went Down to Georgia style like music competition. They're fighting it out. They're like, and and the god Tamales, who watches over the Mount Tamales, he's like, "All right, well, those are both pretty good performances, but I'm afraid I'm gonna have to give this one to Apollo." And Apollo's like, "Yeah, you're gonna give it to me." And but King Midas just happens to be passing by, and he's like, "Hey, that I thought Pan did a little bit better." And Apollo's like, "Well, clearly, if you thought Pan did better, you must have the ears of an ass." And ass being like, one of those donkey mule guys that carry the thing, they're donkeys. And and then Midas is like, "No, you cursed me, Apollo!" And he literally gets the ears of an ass. So he gets these long, floppy little donkey ears, and that sucks for him. Uh, so he starts wearing this turban to cover himself at night so that no one sees the ears, and he always wears these cool, fancy headdresses and hats. But the one person that knows he has these big floppy ears is his barber because the barber cuts his hair. Midas, you big idiot. And, and the barber has sworn secrecy, but the secret, knowing that Midas has the ears of an ass, is just too much to bear. So one day, the barber goes out and he whispers the secret into a hole in the ground. He's like, Midas has the ears of an ass. And he buries the secret, I guess, with dirt. And he thinks, hey, it's alright. No one's gonna know. I just whispered it to the ground. Well, then reeds grow on the spot. And they whisper, hey, Midas has the ears of an ass. Midas has the ears of an ass. And they whisper that all the time. So now everyone knows Midas' secret, and he's really sad, and that's the story.